In episode 1 of season 6, Jughead, who is the narrator, tells us about a town called Rivervale, the shadow town of Riverdale. Tony and Fangs are exhausted, worried parents with a newborn, so they go to Dr. Curdle Jr., who is the town doctor in this universe. He proposes putting a toad in baby Anthony's mouth, and Tony refuses. Then Fangs tells her about an old serpent tradition where mothers put their babies out on rocks overnight and the babies would cry the colic out. Tony's like, hell no at first, but then she tries it. As she's about to put baby Anthony out on the rock, Cheryl comes and tells her that she has the solution to Tony's problem. In this episode, you'll see that all roads lead to Cheryl Blossom. Tabitha and Jughead have just bought a house together, but it looks haunted. There are bugs coming out of the cereal and they're literally being eaten by bugs in their sleep. Tabitha talks to Cheryl about her bug problem, and Cheryl is willing to help for a price. Reggie and Veronica are the local power couple. She's opening up a boutique casino in Rivervale, but Reggie is still insecure about Archie, the kind of hero of the town, and Ronnie's ex. She talks to Cheryl about it, and Cheryl offers to help her kind of build Reggie's self-esteem and not be so insecure. Betty's mom and Frank might have something going on. She eventually invites him to spend the night with her, and he says he can't. He's scared of getting close to anyone lest he put their lives in danger. He was some kind of mercenary type after his military service, I think. Cheryl offers to help them as well. Archie and Betty are together in this universe. Archie's having some nightmares still, but they are happy. I've always liked them more than Archie and Veronica as a couple, but I think the actress Lily Reinhardt is just really good and has good natural chemistry with everyone. Anyway, Betty gets a call from Kevin. He's out in the woods when he happened upon a deer. It looks like the deer was killed in some kind of sacrifice and the heart had been removed. Cheryl shows up and says that they're on her property, and she says that the deer is theirs to eat and something about the cycle of life and nature. She has a group of young female archers as her minions or her students, I guess. We learn that Cheryl has declared Thornhill a sovereign state. She literally seceded, so Riverdale has lost the revenue from the maple syrup. They decide that they'll buy and distribute maple saplings and grow their own maple syrup. Cheryl tells her girls that the maple trees are dry because they've forgotten the old ways. She says they used to worship her, some female deity called the Maple Maiden, who gave life, but she's now punishing them and they need to return to the old blood pagan ways. She also wants to sabotage Archie's attempt at growing maple trees. Dr. Curdle Jr. tells Betty that she will have trouble conceiving. You see, her and Archie aren't in a rush to have kids, but they're talking about it. Curdle tells Betty that she's the 5th woman in this town to have the same fertility issue. Cheryl has her girls make these maple dolls to warn and scare Archie into not planting the saplings in the forest. Betty says she recognizes the dolls from an old cold case she was looking at. She's still an FBI agent, remember? She sees RB written on one of the dolls, Rose Blossom. Cheryl, meanwhile, bakes a pie from an old recipe, and somehow this pie contains the sins of the town. Someone strong, a chosen one, will have to eat the pie and then carry the town's sins, like Jesus. So Cheryl has kind of roped everyone into coming to the Maple Harvest Festival, and they're somehow doing her bidding. At the festival, Betty is crowned Maple Harvest Queen and Archie gets the pie, the cursed Cheryl Jesus pie. By the way, when Betty was looking into those dolls, she also found out that they were fertility dolls. So her and Archie have sex with one of them nearby. That evening, Jug calls Archie and tells him that they have Betty at Thornhill. He gets there to see there's a ritual set up. Cheryl tells him a sacrifice has to be made. Betty is already pregnant, by the way. She tells Archie that their son will be Harvest King next year. Anyway, Archie has a pure heart, so he has to be the one to bring the town back to its former glory. So Cheryl offers him as a sacrifice and removes his heart. In episode 2, the Serpents and the Ghoulies are at war, like the Capulets and the Montagues, because a ghoulie fell in love with a serpent. During their street war, Tony throws a knife at a ghoulie and it ends up killing him, a kid, which wasn't her intention. The kid jumped in front of her intended target, who just so happened to be his mother, and Tony was trying to wound her. Reggie's dad is sick, so he's going through it. Apparently they'd gotten close again. Remember, Reggie's dad hit him and was fairly abusive to the point that Reggie would come to school with black eyes. Anyway, his and Veronica's storyline is a bit boring. He's fixing up a car, she thinks he's cheating, his father dies. Tabitha tries to put some pictures up on a wall, and she and Jughead stumble upon a secret room hidden in the wall. The realtor lady tells her that a couple died in the house. Sam and Diane. Jug is in his nightmare writing robe again. He wants to write about Sam and Diane. Also, a scary, maybe ghost lady comes out of the lake and she's on her way to Rivervale. She seems to have gotten to Thornhill, and there she gets to one of the twins, Polly's twins. There's also a case of a bathtub drowning that Betty is investigating, where the mother is being accused of drowning her kid, but Tony tells Betty that the lady would never drown her own kid. And there is a folklore about this lady that attacks kids. She can even attack unborn children. And one night, Betty wakes up with an eerie feeling and a muddy or bloody handprint on her belly. Dr. Curdle tells her later that she's no longer pregnant. By the way, Cheryl tells Nana Rose that thanks to Archie's sacrifice, they have some maple syrup again. Cheryl eventually has a seance where she summons the spirit of the lake lady. She appears through Nana Rose and tells them of how she was drowned a long time ago and blamed for the death of children, and she has been cursed ever since. It turns out that Darla Dickinson was the one who summoned the lady. Darla is the lady whose son Tony accidentally killed. I know. Also, Tabitha and Jug seem to be momentarily possessed by the spirits of Diane and Sam. Betty and Tony go to see Darla, who tells them that the lake lady won't go away until she has baby Anthony. Tony and Betty reach the lake lady, and Tony offers to take baby Anthony's place rather than have the lady take him. This is basically a dollar version of the storyline from The Haunting of Bly Manor, but I didn't hate it. I actually don't mind the horror element. It is a pity that it had to be Tony though, because she was one of the more normal and good characters.
In episode 3, apparently the devil comes to town to collect lost souls. We see a man outside of Pops then looking straight at him, and it causes Pops to have a heart attack. Betty gets a call saying that they found the trash bag killer and they're bringing him into Rivervale because Betty is the only one he'll speak to. Betty's mom Alice, who is a news anchor type, is upset about the new casino run and owned by Ronnie and Reggie. She basically thinks it's Babylon. Is that the city that had God mad in the Bible? Yes. I think it might be called Babylonian or Babylon as well in the show. While Tabitha is with Pops in the hospital, the Prince of Darkness, Lou, the devil, comes to claim Pop's soul. Pop's father sold his eternal soul to make Pop's diner profitable. Pops decided to take his father's place when he found out what his father did, the ultimate sacrifice. The Prince of Darkness, Lou, says that he wants the diner, then Pops would be free. Pops' soul would be released in exchange for the diner. Ronnie and Reggie's casino is open for business. Lou is there as well, looking for souls to trap into deals, I guess. He sets his eyes on Kevin and gives him a look at what fame would be really like. Kevin signs his soul over. Reggie then tells Ronnie that he offered his soul in exchange for some investment money, and the devil is coming by on Saturday to collect. Betty, meanwhile, meets with the trash bag killer, TBK. Why is his face still covered? Anyway, he tells Betty that there's a part of her that is evil and it's why they're drawn to each other. Remember, Betty possibly has the serial killer gene because of her dad. Then Glenn tells her that TBK is not actually in custody, so who is Betty talking to? Turns out it's the devil. He tells her that hell is real and her dad is there. She wants him to prove it by asking to speak to her father, and Betty's father speaks through the devil. He also tells her that Polly is in hell. She then murders the devil in cold blood and takes the mask off. It turns out to be Glenn's body and face. Pops wakes up and he tells Tabitha that Pop's diner is the soul of Rivervale and Lou wants to destroy it, so they can't give it to him. Lou also meets with Jughead and offers him a deal. He offers Jughead the story of his life, which he can publish once, receive all the fame and glory, but he can never write a day in his life again. Jug chooses this option to publish, and it is an interview with the devil. Ronnie offers up Nick's soul to Lou. Remember Nick tried to assault Cheryl? He's pretty rotten. Ronnie tries to get him drunk and he confesses his sins, and that's how she tricks him into offering a soul to the devil. She also finds out that Reggie didn't sell his soul to the devil. He signed Veronica's soul over and used some fraud to get her to sign the deal. Oh man, what a weasel. Then Raphael comes to the diner and tells Tabitha to prepare for the fight that's coming. Yes, that's Raphael, an angel of the Lord. The diner will play a big part in the fight between good and evil, I guess. And he gives her something that will help in this fight. Just as the deal promised, Jug can't write, literally. It's not that his creativity is gone, the letters are all muddled when he tries to write, so he's not physically able to write. He calls Lou back and asks him to undo it. He doesn't care about the fame if he can't write anymore. Then Ronnie puts on a Lady Gaga, Beyonce, Ariana Grande inspired musical number. It's a bit embarrassing, but she does her best with it. I can't be too snarky because we all know and kind of love Riverdale's janky musical dance numbers. The devil comes to collect at Pops, but Tabitha has spiked all of their milkshakes with tears that the Virgin Mary shed at the crucifixion. Lou chunders, he's weakened, and they kick him out. Someone from the FBI office calls Betty, asking if she knows where Glenn is. She doesn't say anything, but we see that he's dead, possibly in her basement. Ronnie tells Reggie that her new deal is that she will supply the devil with one new soul from the casino each week, Reggie's soul being the first one. In episode 4, we meet all of Cheryl's ancestors, and it looks like we're going to get 3 timelines. 65 years ago, there's Poppy Blossom, a kind of socialite. She hosts salons with her friends who are the current crew, but with different names back then, as you'll see. They're also discussing the comet that they can see in a few days. Poppy helps the locals, the women of the town come to her for advice as well. This version of Betty, Bitsy, is unhappy in her marriage, so Poppy offers her some advice and some herbs, and then they kiss. Velma comes to Poppy for help, spicing things up in the bedroom, and Poppy gives Velma a Kama Sutra and some spices as well. Somehow the husbands find out about this, and all the men eventually try to run Poppy out of town because she's been helping the wives take control of their lives, but the husbands think that she's trying to turn their wives against them. The town starts ostracizing her. Then she comes home to the authorities rummaging through her house. They got a tip that she's a communist sympathizer. Bitsy comes to visit her in prison and says that she's pregnant. At first, Bitsy is emotional, but she eventually reverts back to her husband's programming, denying that she has any issues with her husband and kind of blaming it on Poppy, putting ideas in her head. Bitsy goes into labor the night of the comet, apparently a good omen. Poppy gives Bitsy a gift and tells her that she'll know when to use it. And Poppy ends up being put under house arrest, and she lives out the rest of her days at Thornhill. Turns out the gift was poison that Bitsy eventually administers to her husband, which kills him. Abigail Blossom is the ancestor from even further back in the 1800s, and she's a teacher. This version of Tony, Thomasina, wants to teach at Abigail's school. Thomasina is from Greendale, by the way. She suggests that they all go and see Bailey's Comet, which is coming to town in the next few days. Later, Thomasina and Abigail kiss. Then someone knocks on the door in the middle of the night, accusing Thomasina of being a murderess. She says that she was once in an arranged marriage to somebody cruel and abusive. She took his life in self-defense. Then someone from the military comes into Thornhill to tell Cheryl that her brother James died in the war, and this guy gives her a letter supposedly written by her brother saying that his dying wish was to marry this man. Thomasina doesn't trust him though, so they go through his things. The letter turns out to be forged, and we find out that he practices dark arts. He's a warlock. He catches them, and Abigail eventually agrees to marry him because he threatens to kill Thomasina. Abigail and the man marry on the night of the comet, but on their wedding night, she also murders him with an axe. After that, she finds out that he'd murdered Thomasina as well. He isn't dead though, and he curses Abigail to have a life of loneliness and misery. In the present day, Bailey's Comet is coming to Rivervale this night. Cheryl tells Nana Rose about the comet and she asks if she really wants to do this, some kind of ritual. Then Sabrina Spellman arrives to help with the transference spell to break the old curse. Nana is finally free to be with Thomasina. Then Sabrina explains that the curse was actually one of immortality and that to hide, Abigail created the persona of Poppy and Cheryl. I felt like Sabrina's cameo was so short, this doesn't even count as a crossover episode. In episode 5, the final episode of season 6, Archie seems to have come back from the dead. Betty wakes up and says that she had a dream that the town wanted to sacrifice him. Fangs dreams that Tony drowned and came back as a ghost. Ronnie says that she had a dream that Reggie was been dragged to hell. And Cheryl's Nana has a dream that her and Cheryl swapped bodies. Jug wakes up in Archie's garage and his feet are filthy. He thinks he might have sleepwalked there. He's going back to teach at Riverdale High, but when he gets there, he sees someone who's meant to be dead and things are off. Then Betty gets a call from Dr. Curdle that Jug's body came into the mortuary. He's dead. She obviously thinks it's a joke. Jug goes to see the body that's supposedly his. Dr. Curdle says that he died of asphyxiation and that he was found on the lonely highway. So this Jug appears to be his doppelganger. I can't lie, I love doppelganger storylines. Jug goes to the town border, I guess, and sees that he's in Rivervale, but on the other side of the board, it says Riverdale. He also finds the Archie Riverdale comics, and they pretty much show the story of his life, even though he didn't really live that life. He tells Tabitha that he thinks that they live in a parallel universe. His theory is that there was a set of Riverdale comics, and they ended when there was an explosion in Riverdale. Remember Hiram wanted to kill Archie? Yeah, that explosion. And the comic book series carried on, but was called Rivervale. The explosion created a parallel universe. In Rivervale, Cheryl's twin Jason is still alive. Old Reggie comes back, knocking on Ronnie's door, as in the actor who was originally cast as Reggie at the start of Riverdale. This is kind of clever and funny. Jughead goes to the science teacher, who head-scratchingly tells him that he should stop trying to figure out the secrets of the universe and just live his life, because at any given moment in time, there could be many parallel universes existing harmoniously. Jug thinks that there must be a reason why he became aware of it though. Cheryl gets a ransom note from the Black Hood saying that he has her brother, and they all go and rescue him. At Archie and Betty's engagement party, Tony comes in to say that Cheryl's dead. She was killed the same way that Jug was killed. Jug goes back to the science teacher, and Bob from Stranger Things is part of it. The science teacher is pretty much the villain who wants to see the universes implode, which will eventually happen. Ethel, her name is Ethel, poisons the science teacher and tells Jug that she knows how to save Riverdale, but their universe will have to cease to exist because they weren't meant to exist in the first place. They're going to need to recreate the conditions of the explosion that caused Riverdale to exist. Both Reggies are kind of fighting over who gets to be the actual Reggie, and they eventually end up killing each other in a duel. Okay. Archie comes over the morning of his wedding, the same time that Jug and Ronnie are about to plan the explosion, and Archie tells Jug that he killed Ronnie because Jug told her about the parallel universe and Jug was going to help her destroy it. Turns out Archie also killed Cheryl and other Jughead. He tells Jug that everyone comes back in this universe. They don't definitively die. He was there at Rivervale's creation, so he knows the secrets of it. He thinks that this means that there's a chance that he could see his dad again and have his dad be at his wedding. So all of these not really murders are completely unhinged, but my heart broke for Archie here. Then Betty shows up and shoots him as he's trying to kill Jug. Other Jug comes back from the dead and says that he can help them, which is so weird because I thought both versions of people in parallel universes weren't allowed to see each other, but I guess since they're both aware of each other, it's fine. Anyway, Rivervale Jughead would have to write the stories that fuel the universe to keep it existing. If he writes, then Rivervale survives. That's why he became aware, because he's the only one who can do this. At the end of the episode, Betty gets a call in Riverdale telling her to get out of the house, and an explosion suddenly goes off. Jug also feels the tremors down in the bunker as he's writing. So we're not sure if Betty and Archie are dead. Did they survive the explosion somehow? Did they get out in time? I guess we'll see. I thought this was meant to be the end of the show, but apparently it's coming back. Oh god. I can't guarantee that I'll be back to watch it, but I gotta admit, as wild as this season was, they kinda stuck the landing. I actually loved Jug narrating all of the Rivervale episodes like an old-timey narrator from Twilight Zone, and I also don't mind a parallel universe storyline. It was messy and chaotic, and it doesn't make for a very interesting recap because they were just all separate stories. Given that I couldn't make it through season 5 and I was able to finish season 6, this seems to be an improvement. It's not saying much. Anyway, if you've seen it, feel free to share your thoughts, and we've made it to the end of this video finally. Thank you for watching.